Hi there, I'm Jody Bentley, actor, producer, speaker, and teacher. And as an actor, I play women who are ambitious, determined, myopic, and obsessed to the extreme. As a producer, I tell stories that raise consciousness. And as a speaker and teacher, I talk about bravery in business. And when I talk about business, I talk about the acting business, the entertainment business, business for creatives, and the business of life, which is what this video is going to be about. So welcome to episode 9 of my Bravery in Business series. I do believe that bravery is a choice, and I believe that bravery is the obsessed desire to authentically be who you are and not compromise your life or your vision. Hello, Sharon. Thank you for joining. Hello, Warren. Yes, there I am. I got a little delayed today. I had a lot of phone calls this morning that needed to get handled. So here we are. And hello, there you are. Excellent. So bravery today, I want to talk about this concept of proving. To prove or not to prove? That is the question. And it is a question that I asked yesterday. So the question was, what if you didn't have to prove anything to anyone? And I felt compelled to ask this question yesterday, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if you can hear the plane outside my window. And I wasn't sure how people would respond to it, and it's interesting. So let's look at some responses. So what if you didn't have to prove anything to anyone? Well, Marco said, I only have to prove things to myself. A few people had said that. Wendy said we should not have to, right? You don't. What else do people say? I think I would feel so much better if I didn't have to prove. I only prove things to myself. I don't. Let's see, what else? We'd all be much more at peace. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different. Oh, hello, Marcus. Thank you for joining. A lot of different responses to that question. And as I was walking the dogs with Matt this morning, and I was hearkening back to this post and what people said and really thinking about it. And I became aware, and I'm making a bit of a generalization, that most of the women had something to say about proving, felt that they were doing that and would feel better if they didn't have to. And most of the men said they only had to prove something to themselves, or they didn't have to prove at all. So just thinking about that in terms of business, this concept of proving. And then I started thinking about, okay, well, if women in general are saying one thing and men in general are saying another thing, is it a privilege thing? And Matt and I were talking about that this morning, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I think it kind of is. Because if you are privileged, come from privilege, you know how our society is defining that as of late, there was no need to prove. But if you're not in that group, then I think there is this innate drive to prove, to be seen, to be heard, to prove value, to prove worth. Warren, you say, it seems to me that often doors tend to only open if you impress the decision makers. So naturally you feel like you must prove yourself. Yes, definitely. I get that. But is it proving? What is proving? Can't proving be sharing? Can't proving be connecting? Can it be just being? Why does, if I have to prove myself to you in order to open that door? Well, why can't you just be and know you're enough and the door will open? What is there to prove? And I think, and that's why I think this is a really interesting discussion today, and I don't have the answers. But I think it's what is this essence and energy of proving? And is that an aggressive energy? What is it? But I wanted to talk about the male-female thing of noticing that, and talking about women in Hollywood and the stats of female directors, producers, and how small a group that is compared to the male directors and producers in this industry. The amount of female directors that actually get to direct larger budget films are not even existent compared to the films men get to direct. Actors, the amount of roles that are written for men versus women. So I think as women, and I can speak for myself, sometimes I feel like I'm playing in a man's world. And that puts me in this mind frame of proving. I have to prove myself. I have to prove my ability, my talent, to get in the doors, as you're saying, Warren. That I have to prove myself to belong, or to feel like I belong. I went to a networking event when I first moved to LA. This was back in 2013, and it's end of 2013, and I was producing a feature film at the time, and we still hadn't hired, I think it was our production designer, I believe. Anyway, I'm networking and engaging and chatting with people, and I ended up starting a conversation with this one gentleman, and I mentioned I'm working on a film, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for a production designer. He was like, oh, God, my buddy that I'm with is a production designer. I'd like to, introduce you. Great. And so he came over, and he was like, yeah, where's the producer of the film? I'd like to meet him. What? Literally, that happened to me. And I was like, well, she is right here, and you are already speaking to her. And in that moment, I was like, oh, and I got the game a little bit. But that also started triggering in me, the need and desire to prove. And how that doesn't feel good. I don't know, Warren, does that feel good to you, to feel like proving? It feels like, I don't know, I'm gearing up, I'm putting on an armor, I'm defending to some extent. And I think our natural tendency as human beings is to prove and defend, right? Prove we're right, defend we're not wrong. I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like proving and defending to, a lot of times to be right. So we feel good about our own stance in life. But that's not a great place energetically, spiritually, to come from, because then it feels like it's a constant barrier, and one that is self-imposed, because when I prove, or when you feel like you have to prove, you are self-imposing something that says they're not going to see what I have, they're not going to see my value, therefore I have to make them see it. And does that work? Does that really work? If you're on say a date with someone, you're like, I'm going to make them see how great I am. It doesn't quite probably work out the way you want it to. You know what I mean? Hey, Andrea, thanks for joining. We're talking about proving. But when I'm not proving, and when I'm trusting, when I am owning my value, owning my knowledge, owning my worth, to me, that's bravery. Because it's letting down that armor of I've got to prove my value to be seen and heard. It is owning your value and sharing it. And that's just coming from a different place. And it's putting out a different energy. But I also want to say, after reading a lot of people's responses on the post about what if you didn't have to prove anything yesterday, that proving, it also isn't aggressive. It doesn't have to be an aggressive thing, but I still feel like it's an armor. People pleasers. Anyone out there a people pleaser? Anybody listening? Are you a people pleaser? Because guess what? People pleasers are people pleasers because they're proving that they're nice. And I know because I was one. And I just wanted people to like me and think that I was nice. Hello, Anna. Oh, so nice to see your name in your little picture. Hello. Right? But people pleasing is actually a proving thing. Like, I'm going to prove how good a person I am, so I'm going to please you for what you need. Right? What else? I wrote another note I wanted to say. Oh, like even like just thinking about proving in a different way, because I think a lot of us think, well, I don't prove. I'm not aggressive. Right? But when, like, even when you get dressed in the morning, Are you proving your worth in the clothes that you wear or your beauty and how you get dressed? Or are you doing it to make yourself feel good because you like it and it makes you happy? And it's just a different come from. It's a different way to approach it. Oh, how do you say your name? Hello, Sajad? Did I get that right? Well, hello, Sajad. Thank you for joining. And hello, SM. Nice to see you. I know you had a lovely comment on the post about proving yesterday. And that's what we're discussing today. And the other thing about proving, do you only post successful things or share successful things on Facebook, for example, so you prove to people that you are successful? So just recognize that. And look, I'm not telling you to not be nice. I'm not telling you to not post about your successes. I'm not telling you to wear something because you know it looks good on you. I'm not saying those things. I'm just saying recognize your come from. Recognize what's at the core of that. Is it this innate core desire to prove all the time? Your value, your worth, your beauty, your intelligence, your financials, your wealth, your whatever. Is it that? Or is it ego? So I think the ego wants to prove. The ego wants to be right. The ego wants to be heard. And there's nothing wrong with that. Your ego has gotten you exactly where you are right now. The egos have a function, except when they take over. So, yeah, this concept of proving is just so fascinating to me. So I urge you to become aware of your actions. When you feel proving kicks in, is it proving? Is it sharing? Is it proving? Is it ego? Is it connection? I mean, what is it that happens to you? And I'm not saying that proving is a terrible thing. Lawyers prove someone's guilt or innocence on a daily basis. Sometimes proving needs to be there. But when it comes to you and oneself and myself, I feel that sometimes that need to prove gets in the way of actually showing who you authentically are and sharing that. Because then the proving takes over. And like I said, I think that armor comes up. Does this make sense? All of you out there listening, does this make sense? No one's saying anything. I think you're all stunned. I think you're all stunned by what I'm saying. But think about it. So I urge you to become aware, okay, of if you're doing things from a space of proving your own value and worth or owning your own value and worth. And you're still going to have to sell yourself for a job or win someone over in an interview. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, so I appreciate you saying that earlier, Warren. But I do believe there's an energy behind that. And I think what's even funny, like on some of the comments, maybe I was intuiting and hearing things, but in some people's tone was like, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Okay, well, you're proving to me that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it still has that energy. Andrea, it can overwhelm you and stress you out. Totally. Totally. It's an energy drain where we don't have to do that to ourselves. And again, I believe it's brave. It's an understanding of self, awareness of self, and owning your own value and worth every day. And that is brave. That takes bravery to do so. And that's really understanding yourself. Fully understanding yourself and awareness of why you make the decisions that you make. Yes, exactly, Andrea. It takes away from showing people you're wonderful you. So, yeah. So wrap your brain around what proving is to you. Be aware of that for you. And I do want to talk about proving to oneself, because a lot of people said I don't have to prove anything to anyone, just to myself. But again, is that proving? I did a ropes course probably about a year ago now, and I was terrified. I am terrified of heights, and it was with a group of people. And I literally saw the like big rock wall and the high thing with the beam and the walking and the thing. And I started crying. Like I was so terrified, right? Um, and I could see other people around me like gearing up, being like, no, I'm going to prove to myself that I can do this. And, different things like that. And I was just like sobbing in the corner. And then when it got up to doing it, sometimes the people that were proving were getting stuck, were freezing, weren't completing it because they're coming from this energy, which you could see shut them off, right? Again, like this armor, shut them off from their goal even that they wanted to accomplish. And not to toot my own horn, but I ended up completing all 4 of the challenges. And I'm not saying that I wasn't scared, but I was just present to my emotions and just did it. Just put one foot in front of the other and did it and allowed the fear to come in and kept doing it. And I was just being. And I think that's my whole takeaway from this lesson here, episode. It's proving versus being. If you're not proving, if you are proving, you're not simply being. And when you're being is like what Andrea said, it lets people show you. You allow people to see you. You're letting yourself shine. Your passion, your truth, your values, your fear, your vulnerability. All of that is going to come through. And I believe that is extremely brave. And I believe that when people see that, they are drawn to it. They are not drawn to the person who's trying to prove all the time. They're drawn to the person who owns who they are and accepts all the emotions of life that come with that. Yeah. Does that make sense? Proving. To prove or not to prove. All right. Well, I hope this conversation was fun. It was definitely fun for me. I think I want to bring this one back. I think there's a lot to say about proving. But think about it this weekend and just become aware of when you go into proving mode and where you go into proving mode. And I definitely have to monitor myself in that when I get on phone calls with investors and other producers, when 99.9 times it's men that I'm chatting with. And I feel like I have to prove my worth as a female in this industry. But do I? I don't. I know I don't. And I know that I still fall in that pattern. So be aware with me. Let's be on this journey of proving together, and let's continue this conversation. So follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, follow me, sign up for my newsletter at jodibentley.com. And yeah, and if you want to continue this conversation or start to get a game plan and strategy together for your own career, sign up for a free 20-minute consult. And let's get the ball rolling. All right, thank you for joining me for Bravery in Business Episode 9. I will see you next week. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.